Good morning, students. So, welcome for the biochemistry first lecture on carbohydrate metabolism part 2. So, today we are going to discuss about gluconeogenesis. So, we are going to learn today what is gluconeogenesis and how the glucose is being synthesized from amino acids, glycerol, then propionate and lactate through Curie cycle. So let's start with the gluconeogenesis. The synthesis of glucose from non-carbohydrate compounds is known as gluconeogenesis. The major substrates or precursors for gluconeogenesis are lactate, pyruvate, glucogenic amino acids, propionate, glycerol, etc. Mainly, gluconeogenesis occurs in cytosol, although some precursors are produced in the mitochondria. Gluconeogenesis mostly takes place in liver and to some extent in kidney matrix. So here the important point is the glucose is being synthesized from non-carbohydrate compound, and the non-carbohydrate compounds are the lactate, the pyruvate, then glucogenic amino acids, propionate, and glycerol. And it mostly occurs in cytosol, also some part in mitochondria, and majorly takes place in the liver and kidney matrix. So what is the importance of gluconeogenesis? As we all know, glucose occupies a key position in the metabolism, and its continuous supply is absolutely essential to the body for variety of functions. Functions like brain and central nervous system, then erythrocytes, testes and kidneys, then medulla, dependent on glucose for continuous supply of energy. 160 of glucose 160 grams of glucose is needed by entire body, out of which brain alone requires 120 gram of glucose per day. So glucose is the only source that supplies energy to skeletal muscle under anaerobic conditions. So it is very important that in fasting more than a day, gluconeogenesis must occur and must fulfill the basal requirement of body for glucose. Certain metabolites produced in this tissue accumulates in blood, example lactate, glycerol, propionate, etc. And it gluconeogenesis effectively clears it from the blood. So we are going to see the cycle which going to explain these points. So here in front of you, the pathway of gluconeogenesis you are able to see. So you can see here the enzymes are indicated in the red with the red colors. They are indicated from the glycolysis, and the enzymes which are indicated or highlighted with the green color, they are from the gluconeogenesis. So if you're talking about reactions of gluconeogenesis, it is it involves glycolysis and Krebs cycle. As you are able to see here, eh, if you see the red color highlighted enzymes, they are from the glycolysis part. And here if you see the pyruvate, then it enters into the Krebs cycle, oxaloacetate, alpha ketoglutarate, succinyl coenzyme A, then fumarate, malate, and then it goes reverse back. So here this part is glycolysis, and here it is the Krebs cycle. So basically the reactions of gluconeogenesis, it broadly involves glycolysis and Krebs cycle. Besides some special reactions, it may be noted that total reversal of glycolysis is not possible due to non-equilibrium reactions at 3 stages. So you can see here, this is the first stage, okay. This is non-reversible, this is the second, and this is the third step, and therefore total reversible of as that of glycolysis is not possible in case of gluconeogenesis. So gluconeogenesis closely resembles the reverse pathway of glycolysis, although it is not the complete reversal of glycolysis. Essentially, three reactions of glycolysis are irreversible. So, as we have discussed, the enzyme, the conversion of glucose to glucose 6 phosphate in presence of enzyme hexokinase or glucokinase, then conversion of fructose 6 phosphate to fructose 1,6 bis phosphate in presence of enzyme phosphofructokinase, and the third step, that is phosphoenol pyruvate to pyruvate in presence of pyruvate kinase. These three are the irreversible step, and therefore the reversal of glycolysis is not in case of gluconeogenesis. So when we are talking about gluconeogenesis, the first step, basically the gluconeogenesis is divided into major three steps. The first step is the conversion of pyruvate to phosphoenol pyruvate. So you can see here, this is the pyruvate to phosphoenol pyruvate. But this is not possible here in this reverse direction, as these are irreversible reaction. So in the mitochondria, what happens is, first pyruvate gets converted into oxaloacetate or alpha ketoglutarate, succinyl coenzyme fumarate to malate by the action of enzyme pyruvate carboxylase, and then the malate is getting converted into oxaloacetate and phosphoenol pyruvate by the action of enzyme phosphoenol pyruvate carboxylase. Then the second step is the conversion of phosphoenol pyruvate to glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate to fructose 1,6 bisphosphate, and in the third step, fructose 1,6 bisphosphate gets converted into fructose 6 phosphate by the action of enzyme fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase, and fructose 6 phosphate gets converted to glucose by the action of enzyme glucose 6 phosphatase. So these two steps, they are irreversible steps in gluconeogenesis. So as you see here, there are certain uh, extra metabolites which are formed, for example glycerol, then propionate. There are certain numbers indicated in the gluconeogenesis. So what they indicate, so they indicate that the glucose can be synthesized from, for example, different amino acids, like here the number 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, they indicates the entry of different amino acids into gluconeogenesis. Also, if you see here, there is a propionate and the glycerol, the alcohol part, and the acid part which enters into gluconeogenesis. So the acid part, the propionate, it enters through Krebs cycle, and the glycerol, the alcohol part of fatty acid, it enters through the glycolysis. So glycerol gets converted into glycerol 3 phosphate and glycerol 3 phosphate to dihydroxyacetone phosphate, and then it goes in the reverse direction to form glucose. So the synthesis of glucose from the different amino acids, then synthesis of glucose from glycerol, then synthesis of glucose from propionate, and another important conversion is the lactate getting converted to pyruvate, and then it enters into gluconeogenesis, and this is called as the Cori cycle. So let's see The overall gluconeogenesis, if you see the two molecules of pyruvate, why it is called as two molecules of pyruvate? Because if you see the glycolysis here, this is getting converted into dihydroxyacetone phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. So the two molecules move ahead and they form two pyruvates, and therefore it is 2 pyruvate. It consumes 4 ATP molecules, 2 GTP. It requires 2 NADH and 2 H plus ions and water molecules to form one glucose molecule. So basically here, if you see, the energy is being utilized for the synthesis of glucose. So gluconeogenesis majorly occurs in the situation when the blood glucose level, or there is excess demand of glucose by the body system. So it starts in the reverse direction, where the amino acids, then fatty acids, glycerols, they participate into gluconeogenesis to form the glucose molecules to fulfill the body glucose requirements. So we have discussed here gluconeogenesis from amino acids, from glycerol, from propionate, and gluconeogenesis from lactate. So let's see the gluconeogenesis from lactate through the Cori cycle. So lactate produced by active skeletal muscle is a major precursor for gluconeogenesis. So lactate or pyruvate produced in the muscles, it cannot be utilized for synthesis of glucose due to absence of enzymes in gluconeogenesis. So it is very important that lactate or pyruvate produced in the muscles, it cannot be utilized for the synthesis of glucose due to absence of the key enzymes, and therefore since the plasma membrane is freely soluble to lactate, the lactate is carried from skeletal muscle through the blood to the liver. So lactate is being uh, carried from skeletal muscle through the blood to the liver, where in the liver the lactate is getting converted into pyruvate, and then pyruvate gets converted through gluconeogenesis to glucose molecule, and that glucose molecule can be absorbed back through the blood to the skeletal muscle and can be utilized for the energy. And therefore the cycle involving the synthesis of glucose in liver from the skeletal muscle lactate and the reuse of glucose thus synthesized by the muscle for energy purpose is known as Cori cycle. So it is very important as a part of gluconeogenesis. The questions which can be asked on this topic is the direct question which can be asked: discuss about describe gluconeogenesis. Then if for small 5 marks question, tricky questions, if they have to ask, then it can be asked like gluconeogenesis from glycerol, discuss about gluconeogenesis from amino acids. So there in that situation, for example, if it is asked discuss about gluconeogenesis from glycerol, so in that situation you have to discuss about the gluconeogenesis, and you have to mention this conversion of glycerol to glycerol 3 phosphate in presence of enzyme glycerol kinase, then glycerol 3 phosphate to dihydroxyacetone phosphate in presence of enzyme glycerol 3 phosphate dehydrogenase, and going back to the formation of glucose. If it is asked from amino acids, then you have to mention the entry points, that is converting amino acids to pyruvate, then to oxaloacetate, then to alpha ketoglutarate, succinyl coenzyme A, fumarate, and then it gets back by the action of enzyme phosphoenol pyruvate carboxylase to phosphoenol pyruvate, and in the reverse direction. It can be asked for 5 marks, or the complete gluconeogenesis can be asked for 10 marks. The another important aspect here in gluconeogenesis is related to the alcohol consumption. So alcohol consumption leads to hypoglycemia, or alcohol inhibits gluconeogenesis. So if you see here, in the normal situation, pyruvate is getting converted to lactate and it requires NADH. Also, the oxaloacetate gets converted to malate and it also requires NADH. In case of alcohol consumption, the ethanol, it gets converted to acetaldehyde in presence of NAD plus. So this is the oxidation of ethanol in the liver to acetaldehyde by the action of enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase, which utilizes the NAD plus. The excess of NADH produced in the liver interferes with this NADH. It interferes with gluconeogenesis as illustrated. So here you can see the NADH. It reacts with pyruvate to form lactate and NADH with malate. So it is evident from the above reactions that pyruvate and oxaloacetate, the predominant substrate of gluconeogenesis, are made unavailable by alcohol consumption, or you can say alcohol intoxication, and this happens due to overconsumption of NAD plus and excessive production of NADH by alcohol. So because of which the glucose molecule cannot be synthesized through gluconeogenesis and it reduces the body glucose level, and therefore the situation is called as hypoglycemia. So alcohol consumption increases the risk of hypoglycemia due to lowered gluconeogenesis. Hypoglycemia is frequently observed in diabetic patients and under nourished persons consuming alcohol. So this question also, it can be asked for 5 marks, where you have to discuss about the ethanol utilization of NAD plus to form acetaldehyde and to form NADH, and then this NADH is utilized for conversion of pyruvate to lactate and oxaloacetate to malate. The pyruvate and oxaloacetate are the important precursors for gluconeogenesis, as we have seen the pyruvate and oxaloacetate. So you can see here the pyruvate and the oxaloacetate are important precursors for initiation of gluconeogenesis. So if they are being utilized and they are being converted into lactate and malate, then the gluconeogenesis is inhibited and the glucose formation is not going to occur, and therefore the situation, it leads to hypoglycemia. The another important point which is to be discussed over here is the regulation of gluconeogenesis. So the regulation of gluconeogenesis mainly depend on the glucagon glucocorticoids, which increases the conversion of pyruvate to glucose, and the insulin, which inhibits the conversion of pyruvate to glucose. So you have to remember here, the glucagon and glucocorticoid, they these are the hormones which increases the gluconeogenesis, and the insulin, it is going to inhibit the gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis from fat. So as we have seen the gluconeogenesis from fat, for example glycerol and the propionate, they enter into the gluconeogenesis, participate in the formation of glucose. So glucose cannot be synthesized from fat directly. Fatty acids on oxidation produces acetyl coenzyme A, which cannot be converted to pyruvate. The 2-carbon acetyl coenzyme A disappears as moles of carbon dioxide in TCA cycle, and therefore chain of fatty acid cannot be served as precursor for synthesis of glucose. However, glycerol, as we have seen, glycerol releases from lipolysis and propionate obtained by the oxidation of odd chain fatty acids are good substrate for gluconeogenesis. So here the fat, it cannot be directly utilized for synthesis of glucose, but the glycerol obtained from lipolysis and the propionate obtained from oxidation of odd chain fatty acids are good substrate for gluconeogenesis. So next is the next topic we are going to discuss is glycogen metabolism, you can say. So basically here what you're going to learn is what is glycogen. Basically, first thing, what is the use of glycogen, then why glycogen store as fuel reserve, then we are going to discuss about glycogenesis, glycogenolysis, and glycogen storage disease. So let's start first with what is glycogen. Sorry. So glycogen is storage form of glucose. What is glycogen? It is the storage form of glucose as starch in plants. So in plants, the glucose is stored in the form of starch, and in human beings, it is stored in the form of glycogen. So quantity of glycogen in muscle is 250 gram and is about 3 times higher than the liver 75 gram stored, and it is stored in the granules in cytosol. So glycogen is storage form of glucose in animals as starch in plants. It is stored mostly in liver and muscle. So, and what is the function of glycogen? So if you see, the prime function of glycogen or liver glycogen is to maintain blood glucose level, particularly between meal. So it is really very important to, the basic role of glycogen is to maintain the blood glucose level. The primary function of liver glycogen is to maintain the blood glucose level, particularly between meals. Liver glycogen store increases in well-fed state, which are depleted during fasting. Muscle glycogen serves as fuel reserve for the supply of ATP during muscle contraction. So basically the glycogen, let's see, we are going move ahead. So basically here what you have to remember is the prime function is to maintain the blood glucose level. So why store glycogen as fuel reserve? So you might have heard that the body's main fuel store is the fats, but fat is the fuel reserve of the body, but it is not preferred. Instead, glycogen is chosen for day-to-day use of energy reserve because it is rapidly mobilized or metabolized, can generate energy in absence of oxygen. Then brain depends on continuous glucose supply, mostly come from glycogen. Fat fixed deposit and glycogen is current saving account. So here you can see main important points of glycogen over fats is rapid mobilization or metabolism. This is rapid mobilization. Okay, why it is called as rapid mobilization? Because fats, we know that they are hydrophobic, so they cannot move from one part to another part because of the hydrophobicity. But in case of glycogens, since it is water soluble, they can move from one place to another easily. So it can generate energy in absence of oxygen, and brain depends on continuous supply. So immediately as soon as the glucose level decreases, the immediate supply of glucose is expected, and that is being fulfilled by the glycogen. So fats are fixed deposit, means in case of high situation where there is no supply of glucose, then the fat gets metabolized and it leads to glucose formation that can be used. But before that, if immediate requirement of glucose, that is being fulfilled by the glycogen, and therefore glycogen is called as current saving account. So therefore we have to the body stores glycogen as fuel reserve. So next is, the first part is synthesis of glycogen. The synthesis of glycogen, it is called as glycogenesis, and it is 4-step synthesis. So what is happening in the first step? First step is the synthesis of UDP glucose. So you can see here the UDP glucose is formed. So what is the first step? The glucose is being converted to glucose 6 phosphate in presence of enzyme, that is glucokinase. Then glucose 6 phosphate is getting converted to glucose 1 phosphate in presence of enzyme phosphoglucomutase, and then glucose 1 phosphate is getting converted to UDP glucose in presence of enzyme UDP glucose phosphopyrophosphorylase. And here you can see in the first step and here in the third step, in the first step the ATP is being utilized, it gets converted to ADP, and here UTP is getting converted, it releases the phosphate. So synthesis of UDP glucose, that is can be called as the primary step or the first step or the major step from the glucose. So again I'm repeating, the enzyme hexokinase and glucokinase convert glucose to glucose 6 phosphate. Phosphoglucomutase catalyzes. So you can see here phosphoglucomutase catalyzes the conversion of glucose 6 phosphate to glucose 1 phosphate, and then uridine diphosphate glucose, this UDP is uridine diphosphate glucose, is synthesized from glucose 1 phosphate by the action of enzyme glucose uridine diphosphate glucose pyrophosphorylase. Then in the second step, here the enzyme which is involved is glycogen initiator synthase. So synthesis of glycogen, it basically starts over here. In the first step, the major intermediate which is formed is UDP glucose, and then with the help of primer or with the help of intermediate initiator, we can say, it forms the primer. So the second step is the requirement of primer to initiate glycogenesis. So a small fragment of pre-existing glycogen must act as primer, or glycogenin. So here you can see the glycogenin which contains the OH group as a free group. It can be used as a primer for synthesis of, it can be used as an initiator for the synthesis of primer. So glycogenin can accept glucose from UDPG. The hydroxyl group of the amino acid tyrosine of glycogenin. So hydroxyl group of amino acid tyrosine of glycogenin is the site at which the initial glucose unit is attached, and the enzyme glycogen initiator synthase transfers the first molecule of glucose to glycogenin. So you can see here it, it transfers the molecule of glucose and it forms the glycogen primer. Then the next step is glycogen synthesis by glycogen synthase. So you can see here the enzyme which is involved, that is glycogen synthase, and it uh, elongation of chain synthesis is observed. So glycogen synthesis is responsible for formation of 1,4-glycosidic linkage. This enzyme transfers the glucose from UDP glucose. So this is the enzyme which is responsible for transfer of glucose. So UDP glucose to non-reducing end of glycogen. So this is the non-reducing end of glycogen part to form alpha 1,4 linkage. So all here the linkage is alpha 1,4 linkages. Next is the next step is the formation of branches. So the enzyme involved is glucosyl transferase. So glucosyl transferase, and you can see here on the seventh unit of glucose molecule, there is formation of alpha 1,6 bond. So fourth step is the formation of branches in glycogen. The formation of branches is brought about by the action of branching enzyme, namely glucosyl alpha 4,6 transferase, and then further the elongation by the glycogen synthase forming again 1,4 bonds, and elongation by glucosyl 4,6 transferase to form alpha 1,6 branching. It leads to the synthesis of glycogen, and here it completes the glycogenesis. Next is glycogenolysis. So what is glycogenolysis? It is degradation of stored glycogen. So just now we have learned the whenever we have the body, there is excess intake of glucose, the glucose is being converted to the glucose. In the first step it gets converted to UDP glucose, and then by the action of initiator it forms the glycogen primer. It increases the alpha 1,4 linkage, then 1,6 linkage and branching, and the glucose are stored as polysaccharide, you can say, in the form of glycogen. Next is whenever body is in demand of excess amount of glucose, then glycogenolysis occurs. So we can say it can be called as degradation of stored glycogen. So the degradation of stored glycogen or glycogenolysis in liver and muscle constitutes glycogenolysis. The pathway for the synthesis and degradation of glycogen, they are not reversible. So you can see they are non-reversible. So it occurs basically in three major steps. The first step is the action of glycogen phosphorylase. So you can see here you have the glycogen in the starting where 1,4 linkage, and then you have 1,6 linkage. Here it is indicated with the color code. Here it is 1,4 is indicated with black color. Then 1,6 branching is indicated initially with so you can say blue color, and then there is red color. So the first enzyme which is involved in glycogenolysis is glycogen phosphorylase. So the alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond are cleaved sequentially. So you can see here what is happening here. If you see the action of phosphorylase, here you have on the 4 units, you can call 1 2 3 4. So after fourth unit 1 2 3 4, the here this bond is broken, that is alpha 1,4, and here also you can see on the right side from the central attachment 1 2 3 4. So here you can see 1 2 3 4, after that the 2 units, and on the left side it is already having only 2 units. So 2 units from you can say here 3 units from right side and 2 units from here red part are being hydrolyzed. So again I'm repeating, first step is the action of glycogen phosphorylase. The alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond from the non-reducing ends are cleaved sequentially by the enzyme glycogen phosphorylase to yield glucose 1 phosphate. So this is the glucose 1 phosphate, and this process is called phosphorylasis. What this process is called as phosphorylasis, which continues until 4 glucose residues remain on either side of branching point. So this step is called as phosphorylasis. So you can see here on the right side you have 4 glucose units, on the left side you have 4 glucose units, and here also on this side also you have 4 glucose units. So the cleavage continues until you have 4 glucose units at the branching point. The next is the glycogen is so formed is known as limit dextrin. So glycogen, by the action of glycogen phosphorylase, it forms limit dextrin, and this process is called as phosphorylasis, where 4 units from each side of branching points till that point is cleaved. Next is the action of debranching enzyme. So if you see from limit dextrin and further, the enzymes which are involved, they are called as debranching enzymes. So the branches of glycogens are cleaved by two enzymes activities present on single polypeptide called as debranching enzyme. So debranching enzyme, this is 1,6. Okay, so what is happening over here? Here the bond, it cleaves and is being added up over here on the right side. So this is called as glycosyl 4:4 transfer. So here it is being transferred. So therefore the enzyme, it is called as transferase. So glycosyl 4:4 transferase activity removes a fragment of 3 or 4 glucose residues attached at branch and transfers them to another chain. Here 1 alpha 1,4 bond is cleaved. So here the 1 alpha 1,4 bond is cleaved and the same alpha 1,4 bond is made over here, but the point is different. So this bond is cleaved and it forms the bond over here, which is observed here, and therefore the enzyme, it is debranching enzyme, and also it is called as transferase activity. Next is another debranching enzyme, alpha 1,6 glucosidase activity. So here one of the glucose molecule is released by the debranching enzyme. The enzyme name is alpha 1,6 glucosidase. So alpha 1,6 glucosidase breaks the alpha 1,6 bond at the branch with the single glucose residue and releases a free glucose. So here you can see it releases a free glucose. So then the remaining molecules of glycogen is again available. So you can see here it is again available for the action of phosphorylase. So the first enzyme, phosphorylase, which again acts over here and debranching the enzymes to repeat the reactions as in the step 1 and step 2. So from debranching, it releases here glucose to form glucose 1 phosphate, then phosphoglucomutase to form glucose 6 phosphate, and glucose 6 phosphate, glucose 6 phosphatase in liver, it forms glucose. So whenever there is high demand of glucose, glycogenolysis occurs, where the glycogen is being converted to first limit dextrin, then to glucose 1 phosphate, glucose 6 phosphate, and this released glucose is then utilized for the different activities. The next part to be discussed over here is glycogen storage disease. So whenever glycogen is stored in the body, so the different kind of disease which occurs if there is any changes in the glycogenolysis or gluco um, glycogenolysis or glycogenesis is observed. So you can see here the summary of glycogen metabolism, where glucose is being converted to glucose 6 phosphate, then UDP glucose unbranched, then transferase. So you can observe here it is indicated with the some part here indicated with the red color, which is coded as 1, and here you can see it is again, this indicates the inhibition, means whenever there is any for example, we can say for example here the glucose 6 phosphatase, this enzyme concentration is reduced, so this conversion will not occur, glucose 6 phosphate to glucose, and because of which it leads to different kinds of disease conditions which are called as glycogen storage disease. So we are going to see the different glycogen storage disease conditions. Here also you can see in this table. So glycogen storage disease, it can be called as metabolic defects concerned with the glycogen synthesis and degradation, and they are referred to as glycogen storage disease. So you can see here this is the type. So in the previous diagram or the cycle, you can say these are the types. So this is type 1, this is type 7, this is type 0. So let's see the first, that is type 0, which is the enzyme defect. This is the glycogen synthase. What is the organ? It is the liver. And what are the characteristic features? So hypoglycemia can occur, then ketonemia, and the early death. So let's identify where is type 0. So you can see here, this is the type 0, and the enzyme involved is glycogen synthase. So it inhibits the conversion of UDP glucose to glycogen unbranched alpha 1,4 bonds. So the metabolism of glycogen is inhibited, which leads to increase in the concentrations of these molecules, which leads to glycogen storage disease. So red blocks indicate storage disease. So here the red block, it indicates the storage disease. Okay, so here if it is 0, then it is called as glycogen storage disease. Then if it is 1, so you can identify here, this is the 1, and it is called as von Geeks disease. What it's called as? It is called as von Geeks disease. So if you see here, this is the type 1. This is called as type 1 glycogenosis, or it is von Geeks disease. And the enzyme defective is glucose 6 phosphatase. Then the organs involved are liver, kidney, and intestine. And what are the characteristic features? The glycogen accumulates in hepatocytes and renal cells, enlarged liver, kidney, fasting, hypoglycemia, then lactic acidemia, hyperlipidemia, ketosis, and gouty arthritis. So basically, glycogen storage disease means if any one of the enzyme, if at different level, if it is not working, because of which the glycogen metabolism is not occurring, and the body stores the glycogen, and that leads to different disease conditions which are mentioned over here. So these first two, they are really very important from the exam point of view also. If it is mentioned, discuss about uh, glycogen storage disease, so you have to write down what is glycogen. If it is asked for 5 marks, then you have to mention what is glycogen. Then during glycogen metabolism, what happens? Glucose is being converted to the glycogen is being converted to glucose. So during this, different metabolic defects can occur, and because of which glycogen storage disease occurs. Okay, so today we have discussed majorly the majorly two parts. First part is gluconeogenesis. So gluconeogenesis is the synthesis of glucose through say you can say glycerol, then propionate, different amino acids, and then the pyruvate. So basically it is the reverse of, you can say, glycolysis. It is not exactly reverse, but some part. And then second part, what we have discussed is about glycogen. So how the glycogen are being synthesized in the body, how they are stored, and how in which situations it is being utilized, where the glycogenolysis occurs, glycogen is being broken down to glucose, and the different diseases related to them. So thank you very much. So we'll stop over here. If you have any doubts, you can share with me individually. Thank you.